Hello guys, welcome back. My name's Nathan and today I'm going to be doing my December 2020 NHL mock draft and prospect rankings. Now December is upon us and the 2020 draft is just a few months away. So who do I see as the top prospects in the draft and which prospects make my top 15 in this month's mock draft? Watch till the end for all my opinions and rankings. Now, just like the other mock draft videos, I'll be using a mock draft with prospect rankings today, assigning, in my opinion, the best prospects in the draft to the team in the standings. For instance, at number 16, the Toronto Maple Leafs would have that pick. It's not a mock draft per se because this is the players that I think should go in these places, not what the team will end up selecting. So you'll see some weird picks here that don't make any sense, but they're my prospect rankings, and this is where I think these guys should go if a draft were to happen. Now, starting us off in the top 15 and going into, my opinion, the 15th best prospect in the draft right now. For my December mock draft, I have Jan Mysak. Left winger, checkboard, 17-year-old. Jan Mysak is definitely one of the most underrated prospects in the draft. And for the Vegas Golden Knights, a team that I like quite a bit, to get Mysak in the top 15, especially at 15th overall, if they develop him right, could be a steal in their program and could be a top 6 player in the future. Now, I've watched Jan Mysak a fair chunk in the past couple of years, and he's a guy that will blow past you with a great combination of skill and overall game. He's a solid two-way player, but the skill is definitely one of his highest traits. And so far in the Czech League this season, he's gotten 23 games played, 4 goals, 3 assists for 7 points, which is comparable to what Martin Necas got in his draft year, and he was drafted in the top 15. So, not a bad comparable for Jan Mysak, and so far this season, he's been pretty fantastic. Now, going into one of the more controversial prospects in my top 15, going into my number 14 pick, the Calgary Flames would have that pick, and I have Zary. Center at age 18 with the Kamloops Blazers of the WHL. He is one of the oldest prospects in the draft, but led the WHL in scoring just a couple weeks ago, and his offensive skills are super elite. Now, in 26 WHL games, Zary has gotten 19 goals, 20 assists for 39 points. And while Zary's two-way game isn't really anything special, his skill is definitely high-end, and he's a guy that could totally be an offensive driver in the NHL. Again, he was leading the WHL in points just a couple weeks back. He's a guy that has an amazing offensive skill set, and I think we'll definitely translate that to the NHL someday. It might take a couple years for him to develop, but I think he will get there. Now, going into, my opinion, the 13th best prospect in the draft, and going to the New York Rangers pick, I have the second best defenseman in the draft, that being Jeremy Poirier. Now, some people might say that goes to Justin Barron or like even a Goalie for some reason. To me, Poirier has the best two-way game in the draft when it comes to defenseman at least, and he's used that amazingly in the QMJHL. He's scoring points like nobody else, but just that overall game, in my opinion, is so valuable. It might get him into the top 20 or even the top 15 because of how much he can bring. And in 29 games with the Sea Dogs, he's gotten 9 goals, 18 assists on 27 points on a terrible QMJHL team. And I think, again, with Poirier, that two-way game, that overall game sticks out. A guy that can beat you in defense, offense, and everything in between. Now, going into my 12th best prospect in the 2020 draft, we're now going to go to the only guy in the NCAA in this ranking, that being Dylan Holloway. Now, the Buffalo Sabres would have this pick, and honestly, if you could get Holloway at 12 overall, that would be a pretty fantastic pick. A forward at age 18, playing at the University of Wisconsin alongside guys like Cole Caulfield, Keandre Miller, Alex Turcotte, and those are some solid guys to learn from, especially for a draft-eligible player. Now, he is one of the oldest prospects in the draft, and that's just like Zary, but his stats are still impressive. In 15 NCAA games, he's gotten 3 goals, 4 assists for 7 points overall. And yes, he is playing with Turcotte, Caulfield, Keandre Miller, but I still think he's a player that sticks out in his own right, and the offensive skills are 100% there. Going into my 11th best prospect for the 2020 NHL draft, going into the only goaltender in my top 15, I have Yaroslav Askarov. The Russian goalie phenom at age 17 just made his first start in the KHL just a couple of days back, had a very solid campaign with SKA and did pretty well for himself. Now the thing is, I think no matter how Askarov plays, I'm likely not going to have him in my top 10. And here is why. Because in a position, if let's say I'm a GM, I'm a GM somehow, some way. I'm usually, if I'm in the rebuild position, not going to be drafting a goalie that high, because goalies have proved to be voodoo, they proved to be crazy, and quite frankly, unpredictable. We saw how Caden Preview, who was a 7th round pick just a couple years back, has become one of the best goalie prospects in the league. You really can't gauge that much on them. And that's pretty much my criteria for goalies, is that they can't be in the top 10. Because for me, again, they're so crazy and so unpredictable. But Yaroslav Askarov is pretty much the closest to that, being at number 11. I think he's one of the best draft prospects in a very, very long time. And again, the comparables surrounding Andrei Vasilevsky are definitely there and 100% accurate. But getting into number 10 and my 10th best prospect in the 2020 draft, I have Noel Gunler. Now, in this situation, he would go to the Minnesota Wild, but I think Noel Gunler is a top 10 prospect in this draft. The right winger / left winger, Swedish stud at age 18, has had a pretty fantastic SHL campaign. Now, he is an older prospect in this draft, not the oldest, being an October birthday, but he is still pretty old. But with the play that he's had in the SHL, he's given me a lot of confidence to have him in the top 10 and pretty comfortably right now. And if developed right, I think Noel Gunler could 100% be a first-line player in the future. In 22 SHL games this season, Gunler has gotten 1 goal, 6 assists for 7 points so far. And his average ice time is pretty okay. Nothing too amazing, nothing too down, but overall I think Gunler has had a pretty great SHL campaign. Overall, just being an offensive play driver and being a guy that will beat you in high-end skill. He's a guy that goes underrated a lot in this draft. Not a lot of people have him in their top 15 or even in their top 10 right now, but to me he is in the top 10 just for that pure skill that he brings every single night. Now, going into my 9th best prospect for the 2020 draft, I have the best defenseman in the draft, that being Jamie Drysdale. Defenseman at age 17, he would be picked by the Montreal Canadiens in this spot, and it would be a pretty big steal. It really pains me to put them this low, but there's been so many other players playing even better than him right now that he just had to drop down a bit. Now, with the Erie Honors of the OHL this season, he's played 27 games, getting 5 goals, 25 assists for 30 points. But again, I think Jamie Drysdale has been fantastic this season. It's just that so many other players have been as good, if not better as well. But overall, Jamie Drysdale is an offensive powerhouse. The defense is fine. There is some work to be done there, but offensively, he could be one of the best in the NHL someday. With an electric tool set that has a great pass, an excellent shot, and amazing hockey IQ, he's a guy that could dominate in the NHL someday, and his offense will bring that too. Now, getting into my 8th best prospect for the 2020 draft, going on to the Tampa Bay Lightning pick and German-born stud Tim Stützle. Now, the forward at age 17, the German phenom, has been absolutely amazing in the DEL this season. He still isn't in my top 5, but he is making some big progress. I think he was like 10th or 9th last month. Now he's up to number 8, as he should be. And while there is some forwards I do prefer over Tim Stützle, he has one of the best tool sets in the game, and his offensive skills are absolutely supreme. Now, the German forward so far in the DEL this season has played 23 games, getting 5 goals, 16 assists for 21 points. He was, I think, over a point per game about a few weeks back. Now his production has slightly come down a little bit, but it was always going to, because that was just purely unsustainable. But so far, he's been absolutely electric. Even when he isn't scoring points, he's a big dynamic forward that can kill you in so many different ways. His offense is something to die for, and I think one team in this draft will die for him very early in the draft. I could totally see him going like 5th or maybe even 4th overall. Even that high wouldn't surprise me. Now, getting into my 7th best prospect of the 2020 NHL draft, I have my boy Cole Perfetti, aka Cole Perfetti. Now, it was a really close race between him and Stutzle. You could go either or, but to me, I had Perfetti as just the slightly better prospect. In this scenario, he would go to the Columbus Blue Jackets. But the OHL Canadian center at age 17 has been dynamic in the OHL this year. There's been some inconsistency here and there, kind of reminding me of what Kirby Dach had last season. Not to that extent, but his amazing season hasn't been every single game. There is some games there where he isn't as dominant, but is just good. But in 26 OHL games, he's been able to get 13 goals, 29 assists for 42 points. Now, thankfully, the goal scoring is starting to rise a bit. He had like 2 goals for like the first month of the season, and his assists were just out of this world. But his points are definitely up there. And again, the consistency, I think, is an issue for him. But the top-end skill he has been shown in the Hlinka, the World Juniors, and in the OHL. He's a guy that is absolutely dynamic and will be an NHL powerhouse someday. Now, going to my 6th overall pick, and in my opinion, while he's getting a lot of credit right now, he's still one of the most underrated prospects in the draft, that being Austrian stud Marco Rossi. Center at age 18 of the Ottawa 67s in the OHL, Marco Rossi has 1 less point than Quinton Byfield in 7 less games. Just think about that for a second. Unfortunately, Marco Rossi missed about 5 games to start out the OHL season with a suspension, but ever since coming back from that, he's been absolutely insane and has been lighting up the OHL ever since. In 21 games with Ottawa, he's gotten 16 goals, 33 assists for 49 points, dude. This guy is almost tying Quinton Byfield's production, and Quinton Byfield was almost on pace for Connor McDavid levels just a couple of weeks back. He's an absolute stud, maybe the best Austrian prospect of all time. I think he has to be at this point. And I've seen way too many people not even having him in their top 10. He is slam dunk a top 10 prospect, and if you get him at 5 through 10, I think it would still be a steal at this point. Now getting into my 5th overall pick, this pick being accompanied by the Chicago Blackhawks, and honestly, Alexander Holtz was really close being number 6 instead of Marco Rossi, but I'm going to go my gut and still keep Holtz in my top 5. The right-wing Swedish winger at age 17, Holtz has cooled down a little bit, but his production in the SHL this season has still been impressive, and I still think he's one of the best offensive players in this draft. Now, Alexander Holtz has kind of been labeled as a one-trick pony, having an amazing shot and whatnot, but I think his overall skills as an offensive player are just being criminally underrated. In the SHL this season, he's played 21 games and he's gotten 5 goals, 3 assists for 8 points. He was sent down to the Super Elite League and in 2 games has gotten 7 goals, 2 assists for 9 points. And if you're a great player in the Super Elite League, you're usually about a point per game. And Alexander Holtz has 7 goals in 2 games. He's proved himself as a guy that can play great against men, and while he just has an amazing shot, I think his overall offensive skills will translate as one of the NHL's best players someday. Now going on to my 4th best prospect in the 2020 draft, now I'm going to go to the other Swedish stud in this draft, that being Lucas Raymond. Now Raymond, the Swedish right winger age 17, has had an interesting SHL season this season. I kind of contemplated making a whole video about it because it has been that confusing. He hasn't played great in the SHL this season, but it's mostly because of ice time and getting scratched as a 13th forward here and there. He hasn't gotten much chemistry with Lundell either, and his points are honestly pretty great for the ice time he is getting. Now in 16 SHL games, Raymond has gotten 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points. He's gotten 6 points in 5 Super Elite games, and when it came to Raymond, there was always ice time concerns, being scratched a couple of times here and there. But about a week ago, he was put on the first line for Frölunda, ended up scoring a couple of goals, and just looking fantastic. And that is a great sign to see. Because while he was getting low ice time, he wasn't noticeable in the time he was playing. But with a bigger opportunity, he should get more points and more production because he is that talented of a player and should go top 5 in this draft. Now going to my 3rd best prospect in the 2020 NHL draft, just like Marco Rossi, going to the Ottawa Senators pick, a player that does not get enough credit for how simply amazing he is, that being Finnish stud Anton Lundell. Center at age 18, 6'1", Finnish stud. Anton Lundell does not get enough credit, does not get enough attention for being a top prospect in this draft. Anton Lundell has been able to get 6 goals, 6 assists for 12 points so far. And Anton Lundell, I'm not hiding it, he is my favorite prospect in the 2020 draft, but there are so many reasons why. A lot of people knock him for not having this great high upside skill set, but I don't think Anton Lundell needs that to be a productive player. Defensively, I think he's, again, the best in this draft when it comes to forwards, and he is one of the smartest players in this draft. He doesn't need flashy dangles to get points, he will be able to outsmart any player on the ice. And that to me is a reason why I think he will translate even better than a lot of the prospects in the top 10. And I think he'll be a lot more NHL ready, because he doesn't need that skill to rely on. He can dangle past defenders and still outsmart them either way. He's a guy that in any position can produce, and so far he's done that in the Liga. Now going into my top 2 picks for this draft, the New Jersey Devils with the 2nd overall pick and the Detroit Red Wings with the 1st overall pick, between Quinton, Byfield, and Alexis Lafreniere. And it is it's a somewhat decent close race. Obviously, you guys know who my number 1 is, but my number 2 for the New Jersey Devils is going to be Quinton Byfield. The 6'4" Canadian center, age 17, has been simply incredible in the OHL this season. His production has taken a little bit of a step back, but with Sudbury, he doesn't have a great teammate list, and he's a guy that's pretty much producing by himself right now. In 28 games, of course, Quinton Byfield has gotten 20 goals, 30 assists for 50 points so far. And while that production of being over a 2-point-per-game player, again, has come down, unfortunately, he's still a guy that has an amazing offensive numbers. And for a guy that is so skilled, so big, he brings a complete package. If you get him at like 3rd, 4th, or even 5th overall, it would be an absolute steal. I don't see him going past 2nd overall, though. I think he will challenge Alexis Lafreniere for that 1st overall spot, but by the end of the year, should go number 2. But now, getting into the 1st overall pick, my number 1 guy from my December 2020 NHL mock draft, getting into the Detroit Red Wings pick, and they will obviously select Alexis Lafreniere. Lafreniere, age 18, good old Canadian kid. Lafreniere, to the surprise of pretty much everybody on this earth, has been an amazing QMJHL player this season. I know, even I'm surprised. Now, just like Byfield, his production has gone down a little bit, but is still absolutely amazing. In 28 QMJHL games, he's gotten 17 goals, 42 assists for 59 points. And, you know, it's fine. Even if his production does go down, he will likely lead the QMJHL in scoring. He just had an assist that was crazy where he came up the rush and on his one hand went with the stick and just like friggin' passed it to his teammate on the other side of the ice, and then he ended up scoring goal right in front of the net. It was absolutely crazy, but that's just what Alexis Lafreniere does. He does these crazy plays with the amazing talent level he has, and he is the best prospect in the 2020 draft. Yes, Quinton Byfield might make it a conversation, but Alexis Lafreniere will finish the debate on draft day. But there you have it. That is my 2020 December NHL mock draft, my top 15 prospect rankings. Let me know down in the comments down below your thoughts on my top 15, what you agree and disagree with, and of course let me know who you think are the best prospects in the 2020 draft. But if y'all want some more Grav videos just like this one, y'all should click on this card right here to watch my Team Finland World Junior roster predictions. But that'll be it for today, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on my rankings, what you agree and disagree with. Make sure you share this video with your friends. Get the Grav up to 10K subscribers, boys. My name's Nathan, and I'll see y'all next video or stream. Goodbye.